Hello. Can barely hear you again. Maybe it's me.
Can you hear me now?
There you are.
So is volumes okay?
Yeah, you're actually quite loud for you.
Quite loud for me. Okay.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
Okay. How about now?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. All righty. Get set up here. Jim said this was going to be strictly virtual. Was there a problem with the library again? Or?
Actually, it was me again. The change from Thursday to Wednesday kind of threw a wrench in everybody else's schedule. I don't really have a schedule, but everybody else had to kind of make adjustments, and I had to get Thea from school. So her daddy actually showed up about 5-6 minutes ago and got her. So I probably could have made it to the library, except that it was 5 or 6 minutes ago, which means I would have been late.
Okay.
So, but that's how it until everybody else can get on the same page. I'm probably going to have to still get the grandkid from school and hope that Edwin gets her before 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, and just have to wing it.
You could always make her a featured speaker.
Most of the time when she comes home, she's tired and she goes to sleep, which is good, but not necessarily. It wouldn't necessarily be good today.
Okay.
So
a lot of times when kids are tired, they get grumpy.
Oh, you
as in old guys who never get grumpy.
Yeah, you grumpy isn't the word for what she gets when she gets tired.
Well, when they get tired and when they get hungry, they can get pretty grumpy. I found my first move was always to feed them, and if that didn't work, then put them down for a nap. So
yeah, that only sometimes works.
Yeah, that's true.
I get her home and I say, are you hungry? No, I'm not hungry. Okay. Basically, if she says she's not hungry, she's not going to eat it, even if you put food in front of her. So
I see.
So I don't try to force her to eat, but about probably 15-20 minutes after she's here, she'll go, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So how old is she?
She's 6.
So she's in
kindergarten right now.
Oh, kindergarten. Okay.
Yeah. She missed going to kindergarten last year by 3 days. Her birthday fell.
What's the cutoff?
It's July something. And her birthday is 3 days after the cutoff.
Huh.
And we argued to try to get her into school last year. And they said there's a cutoff for a reason. And I'm like, yeah, but it's 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
no amount of arguing was going to budge them to
I
let
say,
her in.
well, they've got rules, and if they
Yeah.
make one exception, then they got to make others.
Yeah.
So,
But she is she is the oldest in her class, but she's not the only one that's that had to wait. So there's I think one other sixth grader who missed the day by 4 or 5 days.
You don't mean sixth grader, you mean 6-year-old.
6-year-old, right?
Yeah.
Who missed the cutoff by 4 or 5 days. So he's just a hair younger than she is, but not really.
So she's in public school?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right now, her daddy has talked about doing something else, but nobody has money for private school. So
Oh, okay.
he talked about doing homeschool for a while, but I'm like, the way he works and the way everything else is, like, homeschooling's not going to work. And she'll just want to play video games or watch TV. So
Yeah. Well, homeschooling takes a lot of self-discipline on the parents' part.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and besides which, frankly, a lot of parents aren't very good teachers. So, I mean, you're getting it from a couple of different directions.
Yeah. Well, she's doing pretty good in school. Last I heard, they had advanced her. She's still in kindergarten, but they advanced her to first grade math because she was doing the math in her head, and they gave her a test, and she was testing at just right at first grade level. So they went ahead and stuck her in the first grade math class.
So they changed classes between subjects?
So when the first grade is getting ready to do math, she gets to go to their class and sit in their class and do math with them.
Oh, so this is an exception then. This is not the normal.
Right.
This is not normally where you have history, English,
right,
geometry, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, they my understanding is right before the first grade teacher is getting ready to do math, somebody comes down and escorts her to the class. So
okay, well, that's good.
Yeah. Like I said, she can do math in her head, and she can do some pretty good math in her head. So when I heard that she was advanced, I was like, well, that doesn't surprise me because that's one thing that she excels at anyway. So
well, that's good. That's good.
So she's a smart cookie.
That's good.
She can
does she have siblings or not?
No, she's the only kid. Well, that's not entirely true. She has, I think, 2 step brothers, but she doesn't see them. Her long story I can't really go into, but they're not around. They're not anywhere even close. So
okay.
They are younger than she is. But she probably will. She's seen them a couple of times, but she'll probably never really know who they are, if that makes any kind of sense.
Oh yeah. Well, families these days are complicated.
Yeah.
We have 3 daughters, two of whom are my biological daughters with different wives, and one of whom is Barbara's biological daughter with a different father. So, I mean, things can be pretty complicated. And as a matter of fact, we knew that Barbara's daughter existed for long before I met Barbara, but she had put her up for adoption, so we had no contact with her. And due to the magic of 23andMe, my younger daughter met her sister online, and
Figured it out, huh?
well, yeah, she figured out. Of course, my younger daughter, Barbara, and my daughter didn't know anything about the sister had been put up for adoption, and so when she got on 23andMe, there was a connection, and it was whatever the percentage is for stepsisters. I guess that's a quarter or something like that. I think if you're biological siblings, it's a half
Right.
on average, and if you share one parent, I think it's a quarter. At any rate, bingo. It came up, and so basically we got one of those hey mom, what's going on? And so subsequently we Barbara met her daughter, and she's incorporated in our family, and we've been thick as thieves ever since. So
Yeah, something like that may happen with Thea and her brothers, but who knows? I mean,
well, this was an infant, okay,
yeah,
so there was never any connection there,
right.
and
Well, they are. Her mom had two other kids, so they're not related at all to us. I mean, to me and Patty, they're strictly on her mom's side. So I've always seen, I only knew of one of the stepkids. I've seen him one time, but they don't even live around here now. They're far away. So it's, when Thea turns 18 or 19 and she wants to, if she remembers that she has brothers and she wants to do something like that, that's probably the only way she's going to be able to meet them. Something
well
like that.
we have had 1, 2, 3 instances of 23andMe making a connection in our family. My mother had one sister and one brother, and her sister was fairly prolific. She had 5 kids, we thought, and then it turned out that there was a 6th kid. And
there's more that we don't know about.
Yeah, well, that was exactly right. Which this was a daughter who was born 3 years before her sister was actually married, and father unknown, because all of this came to light after my mother, her brother, her sister, and of course her parents were gone.
Mhm.
So there is nobody alive who actually knew the details.
Oh,
And I would, since I'm the oldest of 12 grandchildren between my mother, her brother, and her sister, I guess it's 13 now. Um, you know, I'm the oldest, and my cousins came around and asked me and said, "Do you know anything about this?" I said it may have happened on my watch, but I certainly didn't know about it. And so I was 7 years old when this
when it was all happening.
well, this is 7 years old when my cousin was born.
Ah, yeah,
And so and they had done it in the traditional way that they did it in those days. This is in the 40s. They had done, when it turned out that my aunt was pregnant, they had shipped her off to New Jersey. And I don't know who she stayed with there, but she stayed with somebody there till she had the kid, put him up for adoption, and then came back. So it was all apparently very hush hush. And naturally, a 7-year-old wasn't going to be incorporated into the
oh,
inside loop, so to speak. So they were asking me, and I said, you know, I don't remember. Now, when you're 7 years old, I mean, you're old enough to observe that a woman's pregnant or not pregnant,
right.
or
At
very
least have a clue that something's going on.
well. I mean, why is Aunt Margaret so fat? And but
There's something going on over there.
yes,
Yeah,
but we didn't live close to them either.
right.
So I mean, it was the kind of thing where I would only see her infrequently and so forth and so on. It was easy enough for it to go by for, from whenever she started showing until she came back from New Jersey. So,
Right.
but at any rate, so they were questioning me about what did I know about it, because I was 7 years old, and I had a cousin who was 3 years old and another one who was 1 year old. So I would be the only candidate for anybody who knew anything, and I didn't know anything. So they started questioning me about her boyfriends and so forth and so on. I knew of one boyfriend, but you know, so unfortunately, because of that, it's all lost.
Right.
All that history is lost. We don't know who the father was, and this cousin has been looking for a father, but unless they have registered their DNA someplace or another,
Yeah.
and so Mary. So, and then another one that I knew about was one of my nieces got pregnant in high school and had a child who we knew put up for adoption. And all of a sudden, one day on 23andMe, I get a connection where pretty high level of shared DNA. I think it was like, I don't know, 15, 20%, something like that. It was unusually high. And so I emailed the guy, and I don't know if you've done 23andMe, but Nary, I emailed the guy and he emailed me back and so forth and so on. We had quite a conversation. And he was particularly, he's a young man. He's in his probably late 20s now. And he was particularly interested because he wanted to know if there was any genetic disease issues and so forth and so on. And I said, well, I know who your mother is. She's a niece of mine. I will contact her and see if it's okay for you two to connect, and or for me to give you her information. But all I can testify to is the medical history of my side of the family, which is half of the family. But as far as the father, I have no idea, and I'm not even certain who it was. So at any rate, sure enough, I got in touch with my niece, and she really dragged her feet, because subsequent to that, she's gotten married. She has 2 kids. I have to think about that. She has 2 kids with her husband, and so she finally got back to me and said, "Yeah, go ahead and give him my contact information." I did that, and I've been out of the loop ever since then.
Right.
I don't know whether they ever connected or not, but at any rate, so that's three situations in our family that I know of. Yeah.
Patty, my wife, she has a rather large family. My particular side of the family is just about done. We're I don't have any kids of my own. I have 2 cousins that are left, that one of them does have kids, and one of them has Down syndrome kids. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, Down syndrome runs in the family. It skips generation every once, so I had an uncle who had Down syndrome. It skipped my dad. My sister, she was really afraid that a couple of her kids were going to have Down syndrome, but they didn't. But my cousin, he ended up with 2 kids that have Down syndrome. So it skipped us and jumped over to my cousin. But I am pretty much the last that I know of. But Patty, she has a rather large family, and she keeps meeting people who are related to her.
Oh, really?
At her work, and people that she had no idea they were related to her. They start talking about their dad or their mom or something.
Oh, these must be closely related then, because they, by the time you cousin, most of the time you don't.
She has met several step kids and half brothers, half sisters that she didn't even know that she had. And then she started wondering how many half brothers and sisters do I have, because her dad was a truck driver. Long, complicated story. I mean, she's probably has relations stretched clear out through this country somewhere. But
so he had
apparently there was a bunch of stuff going on. Nobody knew, and nobody in the family knew that any of this was going on. And 30 years, 40 years later, they're coming up and they're talking, and they were like, "Yeah, my dad was blah 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 Lewis." And Patty goes, "That's my dad." I mean,
really?
Yeah.
So they must be all in the same part of the country then. If he's running across them casually.
She has a lot. she knew of when she was growing up, she knew of 3 half sisters that she had, but she's meeting more.
Really? Oh,
And her half sisters are meeting people that they didn't know. So she's got like this huge family
wow.
all in this general area. I'm like, your dad,
He got
was,
around.
he was something of a player, wasn't he? And he said, yeah, but what surprises me is they're not all from my dad. My mom was messing around apparently too.
Wow. Now, are both her parents still alive?
No, they're long gone. But the weirdest part about all that is her dad apparently took time or found time somehow to at least be part of their family, because they're talking like they knew who her dad was. It's like,
Oh, okay. So it wasn't like ships that pass in the night or whatever.
yeah, that's the weirdest part about the whole thing is
Well, was he a long haul trucker or local trucker? Or
he was supposed to be a long haul trucker, and now there's some question as to if he was really as long haul or if he just went away for a week and then came back and then went away for a week and came back.
Interesting.
Because he has several kids in this general area.
So does she have any full siblings?
Yeah, she has 7 or 8 kids, brothers, actual brothers.
Oh, those are full siblings as
Yeah.
opposed to half.
Yeah, she has two sisters, and I think 4 or 5 brothers. I mean, there's like 7 or 8 kids all together that she knows, and then there's the 3 half sisters that she knew about when she was growing up. That actually she actually played with her half sisters. Didn't know they were half sisters when she was very young. So
wow.
She knew them when she was a kid, but she didn't know they were related to her.
So
family's complicated.
I was going to say her parents must have been pretty fertile.
Something was going on. Something was in the water in Middletown, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah. And the really interesting part is how they were able to keep all that from the kids, because other than the 3 that she knew about, she didn't know anything else was going on anywhere. And she's met 4 or 5 more people that they've decided that they're related.
Huh. Okay. That's funny.
So
she just meet these at work or
yeah, because she likes talking to people, so they start talking about stuff, and somehow or another they get on this kind of subject and they start talking.
That's funny.
My dad was a truck driver. Well, so was mine. So, but yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Well, you ought to get her a 23andMe membership, and she can go check out her genetics.
She might be scared. How many of them do I have?
Well,
yeah, that I think
these days I think is not as much of a problem as it was 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, her kids, she has 3 kids. They've been integrated into my side of the family, but I don't have any kids myself. So.
But you said you had 2 siblings, right?
I have a sister.
Oh, one sibling. Okay.
one sister. She has 4 kids. But of course, I mean they don't have the Miller name. They have their dad's name.
Mm-hmm.
But she has 3 kids by one guy and 1 kid by another guy. And my first niece, she have 3 kids. I think she's got 3 kids by 2 different guys. So
Well, so this little girl that you babysit or whatever for, she's the age of your grandchildren or your children?
Thea is my grandbaby. She's a grandkid.
Okay.
So
and that's on your wife's side, obviously.
yeah.
Okay.
That is
All right.
from her the youngest kid. And he only has 1. The middle kid has 3. And the oldest has technically she has 2. One of them passed away during birth. So
That's terrible.
Yeah, that one tore her up because it wasn't supposed to be a complicated thing, and then all of a sudden it became a complicated thing.
Well, was it premature or?
It actually was almost full term, but I'm not real sure what happened. They started having complications, and it was born stillborn.
Stillborn.
Yeah. So
well, that still happens sometimes. It's
yeah,
it's a lot less common these days than it was 50 years ago, but it still happens. There still can be things go wrong.
Well, when that happened and she had the second kid, they watched her really, really close because she had that happen the first time. So as it started to get a lot closer to birth time, they went ahead and actually induced birth and took him. I think they took him a whole half month earlier than what and stuck him in an incubator for a while.
Yeah, but that's not a problem these days. These days, 2, 3, 4 weeks premature is not a big deal. It's I mean, they deal with that. My sister was a nurse in what they call the NICU. It's a natal ICU. Is the way I would describe it. I don't know what the proper term is.
That's where Corbin was in the NICU.
And they have, really, really, really premature babies in there. And it's just part of the operation. They just, keep them until they get mature enough. Usually it's the lungs that's the problem. They have to get to the point where the lungs are developed enough, and then once that happens, they're in good shape. But
I forget exactly what. I know they watched her. They had her on bed rest for, I don't know, 3 months out of it, and they were watching her really, really close. And I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden they rushed her into the ER and took the kid. So that's above my pay grade. I don't need to know, I guess, as long as she's here.
Or want to in some cases.
But yeah, I'm not real sure what happened, but because she had history with the first losing the first one that apparently nobody saw happening, it just happened. So
Yeah, well, that's, as I say, it still happens occasionally. It used to be relatively, 50% of all children didn't make it to their first year.
Well, that's why they families had large families, was because
Well, that was part of it, and the other part of it was that when they were farms, the children were basically,
labor.
well, they were slaves in effect, but they were labor to, you know, uh, for the farm, and so
That makes sense.
the more kids you had, the more labor you had. But I have great my great grandmother on my mother's side, in other words, my maternal grandmother, was one of 13 or 14 kids, something like that. And they didn't have them over just a couple of years. I mean, she was the second youngest, and she had brothers who were full grown in their 20s or in their late 20s when she was born.
Right.
In other words, they were old enough to be her parents.
They were old enough to, be out there on their own and doing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So they were, there were a lot of different, today, I think people have begun to realize, and of course, birth control is readily available, but people have begun to realize that the more kids you have, the more expensive it is, and particularly if you plan to send them to college and so forth and so on. Once you get above 2 or 3, it just becomes completely impossible.
Yeah.
So
all of our all of the kids, our kids are like, we don't want any more kids. We're done with kids.
yeah, yeah,
They
my parents had 3, and my mother always referred to my second sister as a spare in case something happened, that they would have one of each. And as it turned out, unfortunately, it turned out to be needed. She was 44 when she died. So, but at any rate, well, looks like Jim's trying to get on.
Jim's finally here. He's running a little late, but that's all right.
Well, he was probably washing the cats or something.
Oh,
okay.
I'm very confused by this, Jim.
Yeah.
I'm playing it safe.
Is
Are you afraid that the virus is coming through the computer monitor?
Yeah. Not taking any chance. I got my suspenders on too. And a belt. I'm all safe here.
so I haven't heard of cats having the coronavirus, but it turns out that a lot of the deer in Ohio are showing up with coronavirus. They apparently do a fair amount of herd thinning in Ohio. They round up deer and shoot them. And one of the things they started about a year ago, I guess, is testing the deer for coronavirus. And they found a very large percentage of them actually have it. So whether they're symptomatic in any way, I have no idea. But I remember reading this in the news that they were talking about. They apparently, according to my brother-in-law, apparently the problem with deer in Ohio is that they are too fertile, so to speak. And so what they have to do periodically is basically just go out and thin them, even with the hunting and the roadkill and so forth and so on. There's just too many of them. And of course, for farmers, they're a nuisance because if you raise corn or soybeans or whatever, the deer just love that. And of course, unlike a cow, they can jump over fences and so forth and so on. I mean, I can't see Bossy swinging the swinging over some fence. But at any rate, so somebody got the idea to start testing the deer, and a large percentage of them are coming up with coronavirus.
I will, the youngest kid, he hunts. So I will have to tell him to watch what he hunts.
Well,
or where he hunts.
I don't know whether or not human beings can get it or not, but I know that the deer are testing positive. A large percentage of them are testing positive.
He processes the meat and eats it. So that can't be good if it's got something wrong with it.
Well, I don't know. If you cook it, it may be okay. I know my brother-in-law, when he stopped hunting a few years ago, but my brother-in-law, who hunted very vigorously, shall I say, he would do, I think in the state of Ohio, I don't think you can use a rifle. I think you use a shotgun slug. And he would bow hunt. And so, I mean, he was an avid hunter. He would hunt for wild turkeys. He would hunt deer, and so forth and so on. I don't think he ever hunted bear, but I don't know how many bear there are in the state of Ohio. But he would take the venison and he'd take it to a butcher.
Mm-hmm.
And they would strip the venison, the meat off of it, grind it up with pork, and make sausage out of it.
Yeah, that's Edwin takes it somewhere and they process it. He has to drain all the blood from the carcass, and then they can process the meat. And I guess they treat it somehow with something. And he usually gets sausages back, and sometimes he'll get steak back, like,
Mm-hmm.
like a T-bone kind of deal or something. But I would suppose if the processor probably would know what to look for if there was a problem.
Yeah, I would think so.
But he uses crossbow. I think is what his preferred method.
Yeah.
Is. And he's got a 22 long rifle that I think he can use.
Yeah, but a 22 long rifle against a big deer.
When he showed me that, I was like, how many times are you going to shoot that thing? Because you're just going to tick it off.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I suppose if you got a heart shot in or something like that, or
right in the brain,
brain shot maybe. But no, I think it's.
I was like, you're really not going to use that 22 to shoot a deer, are you? And he's, oh yeah, I'm going to go and okay, have fun. I don't think you're going to do much, but tick it off. But
well, the reasoning of my brother-in-law gave for making it a sausage and mixing it with pork was that apparently venison is very, very dry. There's not much fat on it. It's pretty lean.
Yeah, it's lean meat.
So it's almost unpalatable without adding some fat to it. So at any rate,
that makes sense. I know he gets sausages back. I don't know if it's mixed with anything. I have to ask him. But he seems to like it, so he probably ought to know that there's the possibility anyway.
I was kind of surprised when I read that, but it's apparently fairly well substantiated. So James, what's up?
Foo for the timeshare cat.
The timeshare cat.
Yeah, he's a neighborhood cat.
He shows up at Jim's house every now and then, or his neighbor's house, wherever he can get food. He's the timeshare cat.
Is that the one you're holding there, Jim?
Yeah, this is Foo for the timeshare.
Huh.
And I got the antenna built, the mag loop. Yep.
I looked online and saw what it costs to buy one of those things commercially, and they are outrageously expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got some more pecs, Leroy, if you want pecs for your hula hoop version.
Yeah.
The pecs is kind of naturally round.
Okay.
Well, it's coiled up as it comes, right? And as you uncoil it, it still has some curvature to it.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, we'll have to get together one day this week or next week and see how your loop is working.
Yeah. Hang on.
He ran off.
So you use the PEX as a physical support, but the actual antenna element is, oh, very good.
So that's not so bad.
Well, so where are you going to mount that, Jim?
150-foot tower. No, it's actually supposed to be used indoors. It's mainly in antennas indoors. What they do is they typically get a 4x, not a 4x4, but a 2x2, and run it up the middle and hang it off a 2x2 with a platform of some sort.
How big is that? It looks like it's 5 foot.
It's about 4 foot diameter. See? There's me, and there it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
If you put it on the tuner, it can be a little bit taller. The tuner is about 2 foot.
Okay.
Heating capacitor.
Okay. So that could sit out on like a balcony or something pretty well.
Yeah. Or hang in a utility room or something. But it's made for people with restrictions, housing restrictions.
So you could just paste that to a wall, couldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, should be able to.
We will.
This guy had it indoor when he put it together inside, and it's intended for, you see some of them using them indoors.
Yeah.
So now, is that a balanced line feed, or is that like 50 ohm coax or what?
It's 50 ohm coax. Let me get the driver.
I think those hula hoops are meant to be used outdoors.
Now this one, it will be a little, you can't use it outdoor on a stand, but you wouldn't want to use it in the rain and all that. Here is the excitation loop, and you want to know how to feed it. And if it's a balanced line, there is the SO 239. And there is no connection to that antenna. This is the only thing that's fed. And what you do is you put it right at the top like this, and they tape it on some of them. and that's it. You're done.
So there's no physical feed to the loop at all.
No, it's induced through this loop.
Huh.
That's interesting.
Now, how much power can you put into that, do you think?
Well, this one, the guys has it rated at 100 watts. And he says at 100 watts, he'll get, he gets up to 60 amps on the loop, 60 amps of current.
Huh.
So it's basically, it's ringing when you use it.
So it's like a resonator.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a capacitor and an inductor.
Hmm.
The capacitor is built in and goes to the end of the inductor. It's a RC circuit, RLC circuit.
Yeah. So the conductive tape you use is copper or aluminum?
Aluminum. If you want to read the technology, there's a link to it in Wix. There's a link to it in the original article about the theory. And yeah, you'd probably be the only one in the group that might read it.
I read part of it.
I'll have to.
Me too.
I'll have to do that.
Yeah.
So that's pretty handy if you basically just have a wall that's in the right location and rotation. You could paste it to a wall pretty easily with some, I guess, cable ties or stick on cable ties. And that'd pretty handy. And then you don't have to actually run any wire to it. You run the wire to the feeder.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool.
They usually put it on a stick. And just sit the stick in the room and hang it and tack the antenna to the top of the stick and tack the exciter loop to the top of the stick too, and you're done.
Very interesting.
And the tuner hangs down.
So you remember that's only 5 watts. So what Jim's got,
that would feed that very nicely.
This won't even it won't even make it warm probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, at 100 watts, it's will burn you at 100 watts. And I've been burned at 1,000 watts, but I can't. But it's a ring circuit, so it's it's like the things they use to melt metal with, steel with. It's a resonant circuit, and they get it resonating, and it builds up heat.
Yeah, well, we used to use that to, well, they still do, I guess. But in our crystal growers, when we were growing silicon and gallium arsenide and gallium phosphide, we used inductive heating basically to 13.56 megahertz, something like that. It was one of those unlicensed frequencies that's available for industrial processing. And to the best of my knowledge, they still grow silicon crystals that way. It's highly efficient because most of the energy gets coupled directly into the melt rather than getting used up and heating the walls and heating the crucible and so forth and so on.
Oh.
But I earned my daily bread for about 10 years in the 70s with 3-5 compound semiconductors. And we were growing the crystals, slicing the crystals, growing epi on them, and processing them into devices, in particular LEDs. But inductive heating was a standard way of doing crystal growth.
Now inductive, is that a RC circuit? I mean, an LC circuit?
Yeah, basically what you had a big RF generator. And then coming off that RF generator it's actually an LC circuit. You get some R, that's inevitable. All these things have resistance, but the coil that you used around the crucible and around the melt consisted of copper tubing in several loops, maybe half a dozen loops, something like that. But you cooled the copper tubing by running water through it. So there was raw water running through the copper tubing that kept the temperature of the copper tubing low enough that you were not going to melt it. But occasionally we would have some excitement where for some reason or another the water supply would get interrupted. And then, then you had pyrotechnics like you didn't want to know about.
Yeah, steam.
It happened very often, fortunately, but it did happen occasionally.
Yeah, I keep saying RC, but I meant LC. But this is skin effect, so the flat tape is optimal for this use rather than a wire. One over 2 pi on the square root of LC.
I lost Art. I can't hear Art.
Oh, I don't hear him. Yeah, his lips moving. What did you do, Art?
he was there. He's gone. I can't hear him.
Time to reboot. Is that a Windows box? Just reboot it.
No.
There he is, sort of.
For a second, he came back, and then his voice went away.
Maybe.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is with this.
Maybe you've got a short in the headset somewhere.
No, I don't think so. The issue responds to this little gizmo I told you in the upper right hand corner.
Yeah.
It's an audio mixer. Let's see. Am I still here?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't, it could be this, the USB connector on this tower here, maybe going, it's one of 4 on the front of the tower. And I've got a long cord on it. And of course, what that does is put an awful lot of torque on that USB connector. And my guess is that they are the cheapest connectors that Dell can buy in order to, and these aren't new boxes, so they've been around for a while.
There for a second when you first started to come back, it was popping kind of like there was a short in the wire or something. So,
well, I think it's this connector here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
That's why I said maybe there was a short, but it could be the connector too. So,
Well, I'll tell you what, let me, I've got 4 of them here. So let me try a different one.
nope. You disappeared. Mess with something that's working.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
There it is. Yeah. There, you're back.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. One of the things that happens is when you change anything,
It,
well, what happens is if you look at this down here by the mute list where it lists the different audio devices, if you unplug something, it immediately hops to one that's active.
mhm.
So then I have to go in to the drop down menu and flick it back onto the Logitech headset.
Right.
So
Yeah. If I were to unplug mine, it would do the same thing. It would
yeah, I think it
default
just,
to the internal speakers or something.
yes, that's actually, it's in my case, it's defaulting to the speaker and the microphone that's on the camera I've got,
Yeah.
but those don't work very well. So
Yeah. So I understand.
what I'd really like to do is find a good camera that will have a zoom, so I can zoom in and zoom out and so forth and so on. But I haven't spent any time even searching for anything. This one's a Logitech. Let's see what the heck it is. It is a T2 webcam. It's a T2 webcam. Cost about $40 and I got it from Amazon. It's got good resolution, I'll say that, but it does the audio system on it isn't very good. So Mike, how's it going?
I'm doing okay. What about you guys?
I'm fine.
I'm still. So we're on Wednesdays for sure now for the time being.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Probably, yeah.
Probably,
You
yeah.
know, well, we don't want to be in one spot too long. Somebody get us a bead on us and we'll be gone.
Yeah, it's
And we're doing it remote today, but eventually we'll be back at the library.
That is the ultimate goal. We will see how well that works, because we the change has kind of thrown other people's schedules off. Not
Yeah.
my schedule, other people's schedule.
That's Jim's front yard right there.
That's the neighbor across the
That's
street.
the neighbor's front yard, but when you back up, you're pointing towards the street, aren't you?
That's my front yard. There's
Yeah.
the front sidewalk. Now, the thing about this is not a pan tilt zoom camera.
Oh, it isn't.
No, that's the great part about that.
Yeah, but
I-
it's also not a web camera.
I see the pea stains washed off your driveway. Did you hear about that, Art? Some guy pulled in and
oh yeah, yeah. Decided to relieve himself in Jim's driveway.
I get no respect.
That's the ultimate disrespect, you know.
Yeah. I mean, how many people do you know that well, you know?
And
Yeah.
that but you got him on camera. That's the interesting.
Oh, yeah.
That is funny.
You get up there in the 5 megapixel camera and the zoom is pretty darn good on them. And you get the whole yard in one shot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what's the aspect angle? Do you know, about 120, 130 degrees, something like that?
I don't know. It's the Rio Link. That's a 4 megapixel there. Rio Link 4 megapixel. That's the you probably have to pay $40 for that one. The 4 megapixel, it's a little bit more.
And that's a USB connection, or what kind of connection is that?
No, it's
Wireless?
wireless with .465 compression, which really what makes it possible. Without that
Mhm.
compression, it would swamp the network.
Logitech makes a $4,000 webcam.
Oh,
Wow.
gee.
A $4,000 webcam.
So you gonna get
Uh,
one this week by next meeting? Yeah.
I have to say, that is above my threshold of pain. Way above.
I would have to say that anybody that wants to spend $4,000 on a webcam is nuts.
Yeah,
That's it. That's it.
That's it.
what does it do for you? What, that a $50 or $100?
That's the $4,000, $3,900 camera. It is what is that? That's probably 4K resolution.
4 meg,
Mm,
4K speed. Oh,
It's got the specs down below, yeah.
30 frames a second. That's 4K, right? The resolution. It is wireless LAN and network. It's a conference calling thing. It's something that Logitech could probably sell to companies, because companies will pay that much for a camera because they're crazy.
I was going to say, none of the companies that I've worked for would pay that much, but
Back in the day when video conferencing was relatively new, some of those video conference systems were up in the tens of thousands of dollars. So
oh yeah.
I could see a company who spent 10 grand on a video conference and Logitech coming along going, yeah, but we could do it for 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the thing that I could never figure out, we used a lot of these Polycom telephones
Mm-hmm.
where it's a conference phone, you have it in the center of the
Those things were expensive too.
those were outrageously expensive. And I thought, what is it but a friggin' telephone? Okay. I mean,
A telephone with a really good mic and 3 really good speakers.
yeah, but it wasn't, it, but I got to tell you, Polycom's is a great company to have in your portfolio. Okay, they coin it pretty nicely. They're located right in, I think their main headquarters is someplace in Milpitas in Northern California.
Yeah.
Which is just down the road from where I live. I mean, they and back in the 90s, which I realize in electronic equipment terms is a long time, but back in the 90s, every company I visited, every company I worked for, all had Polycoms in their conference room. I had to have Polycom. And you had a spare too.
You had the Polycom phones, and you had probably Sony video conferencing devices.
Well, that depended on how lush your company was.
Yeah, I know. At auction, I was picking those. I was picking those Sony video conferencing systems up pretty reasonable, and you could sell them on eBay and sell them for $400 or $500.
So you pick them up for 150 and then
Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
I think the most I paid for one of those video conferencing things was probably $100
wow.
at auction. Of course, that was back before people actually paid attention to what I was doing too. So once people got wise that I was spending $5 on something that would make me $500, I never spent $5 ever again. There is, what does this one say? How much is this one? There are a few decent Logitech webcams. This one specifically does say that it has native Linux support, but it's not a Zoom. Doesn't have Zoom.
Yeah, mine's a
That's-
Logitech. Mine's a
that-
Logitech.
Yeah.
My camera that I've got.
Let's see. What is mine?
I bought it at Micro Center.
I'm blind. I'm blind.
Sorry about that, guys. I was just trying to see the label on mine. I think mine is maybe a brand X, which means it's probably a Logitech that didn't make specs.
Probably.
I mean, let's face it, the photo array and all of them come out of half a dozen different foundries in Taiwan. That everybody buys the same photo arrays. And then the rest of the electronic bells and whistles is these days is mostly a matter of programming. They use some kind of a gate array and program it.
Yeah.
After my Microsoft camera was like 8 years old, and they quit writing the driver for it. Steve Jones says, "Don't buy Microsoft again. They're notorious for that."
Yeah. Well,
if you're going to use you want to get one that's compatible with video for Linux.
Yeah.
V4L or V4L2 actually.
yeah.
You don't want to mess with the older stuff.
Well,
But-
anything that's proprietary, they've got you by the short ones because, if they decide to stop supporting it, then you're out of luck.
Yep.
Whereas if you have something that's a relatively universal standard, then you don't have to worry about whether the company goes out of business or not, or at least stop supporting the product.
Yep. Have you guys my brother had cataract surgery about a month ago, and I had one in my right eye, and I got one in the other eye. So hopefully
I've had both eyes done.
have you?
Yep.
He spent
Well,
$8,000. He spent $8,000 on the trifocal cataract lenses, and I would never do that. I would just get the mono
Well, mine was covered by my
insurance.
my HMO when it was done there. The only choice I had on lenses was they could either give you a reading lens, a short distance lens, or a long distance lens.
Yeah.
And they would, I don't know who would ever agree to this, they would do one eye one way and one eye the other way.
Yeah.
And I thought about that for about 3 nanoseconds and said, forget that. So basically what I opted to do, And I had them done 2 different times, about
Okay.
a year and a half apart. I was really nervous with the first one. And, you know, I remember stories of my great aunt having a cataract operation back in the 50s, and it was really beastly. But I got to tell you, I have had root canals that were much more painful than that eye operation. It was 35 minutes from the time they put me on the table to the time they got me up again. They gave me a little bit of a, they didn't put me under. They gave me a little bit of a, something to relax me, if you will.
Yeah, mild sedation.
Yeah, it was kind of like 2 shots of old granddad, you know. and it relaxed me a little bit. And then, of course, they use local anesthetic around the eye. It was in and out 35 minutes, wall to wall. The second time through, and the difference in vision was immense. It was terrific. So the second time through, I wasn't nearly as nervous. And again, it was the same sort of thing. The only thing that was annoying about it was beforehand, for several days, you had to put these drops in your eye.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, for several weeks, you had drops you had to have your eyes. And for the first week, I had to wear a eye shield, if you will, to keep dust particles and so forth out. My understanding, I had this done, let me think, 8, 9 years ago, something like that. My understanding is now the eye drops beforehand are once you're on the operating table, and the eye drops afterwards are, you know, for a few days, and there's it's much less of a problem, and it made a huge difference in my vision. So I had the guess I had the left eye done first, and then about I don't know, as I say, about a year, 15 months later, I had the right eye done, and it's made a huge difference in my vision. And since I got both of them distant vision, I no longer have to wear glasses to drive.
Yeah.
No glasses to drive. And I use glasses for computer screen, and I have a set of reading glasses.
Yeah.
And I have driving glasses, but they don't correct distance. They're because I have a little bit of
Astigmatism.
astigmatism, yeah. And
I've got that too.
And apparently they don't correct the astigmatism when they remove the cataracts. So, but I think it's marvelous. I highly recommend, if you have the opportunity to get it, go get it done. But
I will eventually have to get it done, I think. But my brother bought those trifocal lenses for, it was $8,000 more, and he had to pay that out of pocket. So he doesn't have to wear any glasses. I would opt for the mono lens and wear readers myself.
Yeah, that was my choice. I first of all, I like a full field, constant focus. So I don't have trifocals or bifocals or whatever. Basically, have a mono focus. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. I I marked it as on my list to save in my, I'm gonna drop Amazon Prime. I decided when it runs out. It's getting too costly.
This was $69.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
it's
So
a true 4K camera too.
when did you get your eyes done, Art? How many years ago?
I had mine done, and I believe it was in January of 14. The first eye was done,
Okay.
and then the other one was done 12, 15 months later, something like that.
I think those trifocal lenses are fairly new where it adjusts your vision so you don't have to wear glasses, but that's $8,000 for.
No, my copay was, I think, $5 on the day of the operation, and then there was some copay for the eye drops. In other words, basically, when I get a prescription, I've got copay. So
Yeah.
if I get a blood pressure prescription, I got a copay of, I don't know, $5, $7, whatever.
Yeah.
And the eye drops were prescription eye drops. So each of those types of eye drops I had a copay on. But I think my total out of pocket was well under $50.
Yeah.
I've got one coming up in March, and the high end continuous focus guys are
Yeah.
about 3,800 now, and the eye drops are $90, and that's the name of the game.
So you go through what healthcare system to get that?
Now that's just the price. Whether they pay for them or not, it's a different thing. But that's just the price, $3,800. That's how much it's going to cost you. And Medicare, nobody's going to take care of that. Yeah. Fortunately, we have a HSA.
Yeah. Health savings account.
Yeah.
Well, my brother had a $500 copay with his insurance, and they would have paid for the mono lens for nothing, but to get that extra multifocal lens, it was pricey. And I just wouldn't do that myself.
Yeah, this is past the multi-focus. This is the continuous focus crap now. 3,800. So it's they're getting the price down, and you're getting a better product for the high-end people if you need them. You get the bifocals, you can get the monofocals, but the new latest and greatest is like 3,800. I think
his was $3,400 for each eye plus yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
He just had it done like he's 57. He figured I'm 57 over my life. I'll get some of it back so I don't have to buy glasses. But are you going to get the continuous focus lens?
I'm thinking about it now. I won't have to wear glasses then, and I only have to do one eye right now.
Okay.
So this is cataracts, is it, Jim?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My case is probably a Yugo.
What's a Yugo? I remember the Yugo car, which was
Yeah, that's what I was making fun.
That was also known as the POS version.
Yeah. Oh, I got a gem of wisdom for you guys. If you hear a drug advertised on TV and they have a little fancy tune and it catches in your head, when your doctor says that word, you should run.
That's called an earworm when it gets in your ears and gets out of your head.
And when the doctor says it, you need your heart medicine. And the word is Entresto.
Oh yeah, I've seen the commercials.
Yeah. $600 for 1 month.
Oh my gosh.
30, yeah.
That'd make your heart go into failure. It wouldn't.
Yeah.
How's that spelled?
Let's see. Entresto. you don't watch much TV, are you?
Is that a tier 5 drug or whatever, or you gotta get special permission to take it?
It's a replacement for some of the blood pressure medicine.
Okay,
I'm trying it to replace Losartan, and there's another one that's very common. But it's supposedly it's better, extend your life sort of thing. And he said, oh, it's a new drug and it's supposed to be better for you. And he said, Entresto. And I said, ah! Which was the appropriate response.
Yeah, it's sacubitril is Entresto is a trade name for it.
Yeah.
Or valsartan. It's a fixed dose combination medication for use in heart failure.
Yeah.
Consists-
Lisinopril, it's a replacement for lisinopril is another one. And
Yeah,
Losartan-
that's an ACE inhibitor. I've been taking that for 30 years now.
Oh, okay.
I take Losartan for my blood pressure.
Okay, yeah, that's the other one that I'm coming off of to go to the other one.
Because I had lisinopril,
Yeah.
but I got the scratchy throat. I kept coughing or, you know.
Yeah, well, one of the side effects of lisinopril is dry cough.
Yeah, and I
dry
didn't have
cough.
it for the first year and a half, and it just hit me. You know, I took it, was no problem, and he took me on the Losartan then.
Now, if you can tolerate the so-called dry cough, lisinopril is not a bad med. But
I came off of it because it was messing up my blood test.
oh, really?
Yep. Yeah. And I was getting numbers that were headed kind of, so they put me on Losartan and that improved. And
But
he
this
said,
Entresto is so much better, $600 a month better.
yeah, it's supposed to be much better. Yeah. And like Eliquis is another one. Oh yeah. It's coming down some, but it was right up there with them.
God.
Well, it never hurts to have, 25% of your portfolio in pharmaceuticals, I can tell you. It's been predictably about 14% compound return for the last 30 years that I know about. So there's space in my portfolio for it. Of course, and fortunately, I have a good HMO that covers most of this stuff. So, but lisinopril is also used if you have diabetes. They use it to protect your kidneys.
Well, actually, it was causing. That was one of my kidney function tests that it was affecting adversely.
Interesting. And because a low dose lisinopril is a fairly standard treatment for somebody with diabetes.
Everybody I know has had lisinopril. Kenny's had lisinopril. I'm sure Leroy's had it sometime.
I have no idea what that is.
It's an
Yeah,
ACE inhibitor.
I saw Kenny at the gym about 3 or 4 days ago.
Yeah, he said he ran into you over there.
Yeah. Yep. He talked to me for about 2 seconds. It was really cold out. And he says, I'm going inside. And I said, I'm following you. We pulled into the parking lot.
So he's having the cataract thing done too.
Oh, he is.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, my doctor, she's at the Pearl Vision there at Voice of America. Her name's Dawn Mosick. She said, everyone gets cataracts if you live long enough. It's just a matter if they get bad enough where you have to get them taken out or not.
Yeah.
Well, there's it's a particular problem with ham radio operators.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
Looking at the screens too much.
No. It's the particularly if you do a lot of VHF and UHF stuff, it will generate microwaves will generate cataracts.
I didn't know
Okay.
that.
Oh, yeah.
Also, I
Microwave.
was warned against steroidal nose drops too, where affects cataracts. So maybe everything does.
Well, the microwaves, the early microwave ovens,
Yeah.
were first to discover to cause cataracts.
Among other things,
Yeah. But
the
But
early microwave ovens were not kind to they were not
Well,
friendly.
well, they weren't well shielded is the problem.
Yeah.
I heard there was sterility issues, wasn't there, with the early microwaves?
Well, there
Um,
are all kinds of issues with the
I think some of that was
Overblown.
yes. It made good press, but I don't know that there was any truth to it. But I mean, if you put
My-
your testicles in
my
microwave, it probably would have.
my grandmother had one of the early radar ranges. It was actually
Yeah.
called radar range.
Yeah,
Amana radar ranges. Yeah.
right.
Every time she would turn it on, the lights in her house would start to twinkle.
Yeah.
They were causing all kinds of weird problems. I mean, just
Yeah, they but at any rate,
and they were high powered too. They nowhere near what we've got now. I mean, they're still kind of high powered, but you're talking like 4,500 watts or something for
well, but the
something
thing
that only takes 700 watts to do now.
but the thing is they weren't properly shielded either.
Uh,
The shielding was the problem.
They-
So,
They were
but
pretty-
the other thing
pretty
that
nasty.
my optometrist told me, and this is going back into the 80s, said always wear UV dark glasses outside
Yeah.
because UV contributes to it as well. It basically causes the breakdown in the lens
Yeah.
material, so that if you're exposed to too much UV, you're going to get cataracts. And
Yep.
she said everybody gets cataracts, but the trick is to protect your eyes as long as you can, because the other thing is the process of cataract remediation or replacement or cataract is improving regularly. So the longer you can wait, the better off you're going to be. And
Yeah.
I have to say, when I had it, which was what 8 years ago
8
or
years
so.
ago.
Yeah, I have to say, man, it was pretty slick then.
Hey, Jim, is there an upside down basket in your driveway at the front?
Upside down basket.
Yeah, it's that. It's the
Oh,
drum.
yeah, it's a drain cover.
Oh, drain cover. Okay.
My
Yeah. My friend got cataract surgery. He's dead now, but he was in his
Now that's a recommendation.
It was like
I
in the,
was thinking the same thing.
it was like in the mid 70s, and he had to have his eyes covered for 4 days, and he had to lay down and all this stuff back in the mid 70s.
My grandmother went through, she had cataracts removed from her eyes, and it was a pretty involved process, but that was probably 25-30 years ago.
Yeah, his was in the mid 70s.
It was a pretty involved process, and she had to wear an eye patch and she had to have people help her around. And I'm like, was it really worth going through all this? Because
Well,
I
if
know-
they have really
I know
bad
now you
tendon-
can't lift heavy weights for like a day. They don't want you to raise your eye
Yeah.
pressure, you know, but it's not very long.
yeah, but I know it. I know it's times have changed, things have improved, but when she had it done, I was kind of like, was it really worth going through all this extra? Because
well,
she was in pain for like a week. It was just a nasty. But she said it was kind of cool because they took her eyeball out
Oh, God.
to do it. She was.
It popped her eyeball out.
That's what she said. She said they popped her eyeball out. She was awake the whole time, and the guy was holding her eyeball. And
I think the sedation affected her cognition.
maybe.
I think it's getting deep in here. Yeah.
I was like, "Well, that's cool. Can I see you take your eyeball out, Grandma?"
Yeah.
I have to slip my waders on here for a minute.
Yeah.
Well, when,
Yeah. Are you saying that my grandmother just was making things up? Is that what you're saying?
No, I think she was.
I think most grandmothers make
misunderstood.
things up. but-
I think she misunderstood based on the trauma and the sedation.
Yeah, she was 90 some odd years old. I guess that's possible.
Well, when my great aunt had a cataract operation in the 1950s, the recovery was, first of all, they had to be, basically they bolted the head into position
Good Lord.
so you didn't move. The key problem was you couldn't move. And they sliced it out and so forth and so on. And her recovery involved several weeks to a month lying flat on a bed with sandbags on both sides of her head to keep her from moving, because in those days, of course, the surgery was much more primitive and they knew a lot less about what was going on. And so you had to be fastened in position. And I remember it was a big deal because the whole family was getting play by play on this process. But that was what, 65, 70 years ago? I mean, 65 years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
Going
But-
from bolting your head down so you can't move to
Yeah.
took your eyeball out so we could.
Well, my dad had cataract operations back in it was either the late 80s or early 90s, and it was already at the point where it was a fairly routine operation. They go in and they remove the cataract, and then they put the lens in and so forth and so on. I guess it was in the 90s, and it went really well. And the thing that he noticed about it, what he said, everything turned blue afterwards. And the reason is that the cataracts had picked up a yellow. Now you have to realize he was in his 80s at this point in time. The cataracts had picked up a yellow hue.
Yeah.
And when they removed the cataract and put the lens in, everything shifted blue. And so, and he had his done sequentially also, not at the same time. And then in the late 90s or early 2000, my mother had one eye done and the surgeon just bollocks the mess up. I mean, she ended up getting an infection in the eye and almost lost sight in the eye.
Wow.
That guy, the only reason he didn't get sued is because my parents were not the suing type. And he was eventually replaced by somebody else who went in and fixed it. And after that, she was afraid to have the second one done. So she had finally been convinced to have one done in around, I don't know, 2010, something like that. And then she got another problem that was eventually fatal and
Wow.
didn't have it done. But now anymore, it's a piece of cake. It is. I was really nervous. Somebody talks about, well, they're going to slice into your eyeball. You are out of your mind. But it
With a
turned
potato peeler, yeah.
it turned out to be a piece of cake. It was just unbelievably cool. And it improved my vision tremendously.
And they didn't take your eyeball out.
They did not take my, hey, I was awake all the time. I
Yeah.
had a little bit of something or another to relax me, but it was,
Well, that's,
yeah, very
my
minimal.
grandmother said she was awake the whole time, but they took her eyeball out. So she probably, whatever they gave her to relax her, probably.
Yeah.
Well, it made it a good story for your grandkids. Okay. I mean, if you're going to tell a story, you might as well make it a good one. But anyway,
She
no,
tell some whoppers, but I always thought that one was a real
Go to
story.
the top.
but I have to say I've had no complaints with it at all. I've been extremely happy, and with Kaiser, and I think this is a Medicare requirement. With Kaiser, your vision had to get to a certain point before.
Any topic getting right, has to get so right.
Well,
But-
what happened was, at Kaiser at least, if they got to as long as they could correct your vision to 20/40 with glasses, then they wouldn't do it. Once they got to the point where they couldn't correct it to 20/40, then you were eligible, and they did the whole routine. And I'm not sure if that's a Kaiser requirement or a Medicare requirement, but it had to be at a certain point before the insurance would pay for it. I don't know.
What happened to my brother is he kept getting nausea and he kept saying, I can see, but I get halo effect and everything. So he sent him to a specialist, and the specialist said, depending on the brain, some people are more sensitive and their brain doesn't correct the vision. As some people can have cloudy eyes and function fairly well, and other people can have little cataracts and it throws them. My brother's an IT guy staring at a screen,
Yeah. Well, that's another thing that generates cataracts. In the old days with CRTs, they gave off a certain amount of radiation that would cause cataracts also.
Yeah.
Now anymore, liquid crystals, you're not going to have that, or even plasma. But I have to say, I've been very, very, very happy with mine.
So are they going to do surgery on you, Jim, or are they thinking about doing surgery?
Yeah, I'm scheduled. Yeah,
Oh, you
Kenny's
are?
probably gonna get some before I'd get mine. Little turkey. Yeah, they do it up in Middletown. They do a lot of them up in Middletown. Yeah, it's Cincinnati
CEI, they got it on Roosevelt and near Shaddocks there on Marshall and Roosevelt, or Marshall and Central.
It's not there anymore. It's moved.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it's still in Middletown now, but it's not next to Shaddocks anymore.
Okay.
My mom had some work done on one of her eyes, needed somebody to come and pick her up. And I said, okay. I said, where are you at? And she's Cincinnati Eye. And I drove over there where you're talking. And I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, there's no eye institute over here.
Is it on like Real Boulevard or University?
I don't remember where I thought it was out by I thought it was out by Myers.
Okay, out there, Town Boulevard there.
Yeah, that's where I seem to recall going and picking her up. But
What a difference a day makes. Gil's out there with t-shirt, 61 degrees, and yesterday you were freezing to death.
Oh, yeah.
and it's going to be 50 and raining overnight.
Yeah, that's what I understand.
And then by Friday morning down to 33, and then by Sunday back into the 50s again.
Yeah.
Well, we're at 59.36 here right now. And so far, no rain. Let me take a look and see if my rain gauge has been activated in the last, whoops, there we go.
Yeah, I'm just showing clouds. I'm not showing any rain.
Yeah, I've got, the last time we had rain in the rain gauge here was on the 11th, February 11th at 10:28 in the evening.
I got a question for you, Art. You've messed with Raspberry Pis enough. You probably know the answer.
This sounds like a setup.
I have a Raspberry. It's not a setup. It's driving me freaking crazy is what it's doing. I've got a Raspberry Pi 3B, and it has suddenly just become the slowest thing in the world. So I reloaded the OS, brand new clean install, and it is so slow. I don't know what happened to it. Do you have any idea what might have? I've reloaded the OS like 6 times now because I'm stubborn and I keep.
Did you use a new micro CD?
I'm going to have to go and buy one.
I would try.
That's what I was leaning towards.
The situation that I've observed with the Raspberry Pis is that the micro CD deteriorates with time.
Yeah.
Nothing else on it would change speed without. I mean, it might die, but it wouldn't change speed. I wouldn't think.
It is. It's painfully slow. Like when
now, are you actually connecting a monitor to this and working directly with it, or are you doing the? Are you talking about wireless being slow?
No. I am. Basically, it's running off of that.
Okay, so that's direct.
But I'm SSH'd into it. And well, I was until I unplugged the power. But I started the update process.
Yeah.
When we started the meeting at 5 o'clock, and it hasn't progressed beyond 50% right now.
Well, how big was the update? How many files did it say it was?
No, it hasn't even gotten that far. It did the download, or it's trying to read the information state. It just did like the it went to the repositories, it grabbed all the stuff from the repositories, but now it's got to tell me, there's 500 updates or 200 updates or whatever.
I'd replace the SD chip. That would be my first move.
That's where I'm kind of leaning that way, but
well, one of the problems with the Raspberry Pi, in my opinion, is that those SD chips are not designed to operate forever. They operate for a lot of, millions of operations and so forth. But if you have a section of the code that is continually updating, you run it past its life. And I'd try a brand clean, new, pristine SD chip.
Have you ever actually heard of the SD chips going bad from sitting? Because I
No,
haven't turned this thing on in over a year.
mm, no,
Okay.
no, I wouldn't expect it to go bad from sitting. I would expect now. There may be some cheap SD chips out there that I generally get the ones that I prefer are the ones that they use as a come on at the micro center.
That's what this is a come
That
on,
that
a
you
come
can
on micro center.
Well, they're come-ons because they're pretty good,
Yeah.
but you only get that price if you're in the store. The online price is a couple of bucks more for say a 32. But
Well, I'll go and grab some more SD cards.
What size SD are you using?
It's a 16.
Yeah, that's plenty. I mean, you can run the Raspberry Pi. You can run Raspbian. I assume you're running Raspbian.
Yeah.
You
I
can run.
went back. I grabbed an old version of Raspbian because I thought, oh, hell, maybe it just doesn't like the new version. So I grabbed a version from 2018, and it's still running dirt slow. So you might be right. It's probably the SD card is.
That would be my first guess. And a 16 is plenty large.
Yeah.
You can actually run it on an 8.
I've got a couple of them running on 4s.
Of
course, they're old. They're old, but
well, I don't know if you're running. Are you running the mini version, or are you running the full blown version of Raspbian?
Well, I've tried both, but it's just so slow.
Yeah, it's probably the SD chip. That would be the first thing that I would try.
I'm shooting it.
Okay. I have to say, I've the one thing that I've had problems with is I have a Raspberry Pi sitting right beside with a camera on it, sitting right beside one of my Weiss cameras, the Weiss V2s or V3s. And I can solidly connect with the Weiss camera, and I cannot necessarily the connection, the wireless connection with the Raspberry Pi. This is a 3B in this case, is intermittent, flaky. So the one complaint I've had is that whatever chip they're using for the Wi-Fi isn't as good as the one they're using in the Weiss cams.
Yeah.
Or maybe maybe the Weiss cams have a better antenna. I don't know, but the connection is not as good. But well,
maybe I actually ran into a weird situation with my phone yesterday. I walked past my router and my phone popped up and said, Wi-Fi signal. How did it word it? Signal degraded, switching to something. And I'm like, signal degraded. I'm standing right here next to it.
Maybe it's overpowering.
So well, that's what I thought. I was like, maybe I actually overdrove it for whatever reason. Maybe the two cameras sitting right next to each other are interfering with each other. Because I'm not having a problem with the Wi-Fi. I mean, it connects and it's solid, but it's just so slow. Slow. And I'm about ready to take a sledgehammer and just beat it to death.
You have another one you can compare it to?
I'm not real sure where they are. I found this one. I was going to try a project and I spent 2 days, well, a day and a half now, just trying to get it to update so I could do this stupid project.
Huh.
Now I'm getting to the point where I'm not even sure I care about the project. I just want it to update. I just want it to start being fast. I've Googled it. There's varying opinions about things, which is one reason why I went back in time, was because, you know, people are saying that the kernel on the newer stuff for the newer editions doesn't run well on the older hardware. And I went, yeah, that makes sense. But I went back as far as I could possibly go, and I'm still running into the same problem. So I've either got a hardware problem with the Raspberry Pi itself, or the SD card is shot. And I just find it hard to believe that since I haven't used this thing for over a year, that the SD card went bad.
Well, but I can believe that you might have 500 or 1,000 upgrades. For example, I just logged into one of mine, SSH'd into one of my Raspberry Pis here. And I updated it probably 2 weeks ago. And there are now 39 packages can be upgraded.
Right. Well, I understand that there's probably a lot of updates, but you would think in an hour and a half, 2 hours, it would have at least told me how many updates I had. I mean,
so you're saying you're not even getting to it.
Right. It hasn't even, yeah. I mean, it's telling me reading the package list done, building the dependency tree done. But it's sitting at the state part, just sitting there waiting for the state to finish.
That's interesting. Huh.
I think that I tried one, and it did actually finally tell me that there were 440 packages.
That I can believe.
But
you said you hadn't used it in a year and a half.
Well, I've reloaded Raspbian 3 or 4 times on it now, because I thought, you know, that might have been a problem, that maybe Raspbian had gotten corrupted somewhere. So 440 packages would have been a clean install, and that was not the version that I'm using right now. But it was sitting. It told me that, and then it was just sitting there waiting for something to happen. Like something was, and here's the other weird thing. Every now and then when I boot this thing, even with the version of Raspbian that I'm running right now, I will get a kernel panic, and I'll have to unplug it and plug it back in, and it'll boot to the desktop. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Which is why I was thinking it's either a Raspberry Pi hardware problem or it's an SD problem.
Yeah, I'd bet on the micro SD, and
I don't have either one of them right now to verify. So,
well, while we were talking, I just started an upgrade on, I did an update and then an upgrade on one of mine here by wiring into it remotely.
I think it's probably almost done now.
Well, all the packages are downloaded, but it's still going. It's 31% through the install process.
Yeah.
So it's based on that, I'd say it's got probably another 3 minutes to go, something like that.
Yeah. Well,
and
I started this process just before I started the meeting. And so, we're at 7 o'clock now. We started the
Yeah.
meeting about 5, so it had
Yeah,
been
so-
2 hours.
Yeah, something's wrong there.
So
Yeah, it's ripping right along here.
oh well.
And all the download has all happened. Basically, it's just doing the install now.
Yeah.
Now,
Well,
it's a lot smaller install because it's only 39 packages. But
most of the downloads themselves, even with 440 packages, most of them are pretty small downloads. I mean,
that's true.
the install itself might take a while, but the download should be relatively quick.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and that depends on your bandwidth and so forth and so on. But my download went bang like
Yeah.
that. And so you've got 400 packages yourself?
Well, that was a previous attempt that failed. I haven't even gotten to that point now. So, but yes, at one point I had 440 packages. I know one time I did actually tell it to go ahead and install those, and the packages downloaded relatively quickly, probably within 10 minutes or so. But it got hung up somewhere along the line, and I sat and waited for several hours waiting for it to finish installing packages, and I finally just gave up and unplugged it. Because
yeah, well, it's
but yeah, I just thought maybe you might have a different idea, because I was leaning towards either a Raspberry Pi hardware problem itself or a SD problem.
Hardware problems other than the SD are pretty much a 1 or 0. So something breaks, it's just broken. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
So something that breaks, it just slows things down. Very strange.
Well, the only reason why I was even thinking Raspberry Pi hardware was because I would get the kernel panic every now and then, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I shouldn't be getting kernel panics.
I wouldn't think so. Well, I'm at 83% now.
Yeah. See,
well,
I restarted this process shortly after, and I'm building a dependency tree, but I'm sitting at like 30%.
That is strange. I'm done. Okay, the 39 are installed. So
granted, you only had 39, but I mean, it went fast.
Yeah,
you're done. And I am saying that I'm just painfully waiting for it to build a dependency tree so that it could get to the next stage and just sit there and wait forever. Because that's what it's been doing. It gets to the next stage and it just sits there forever.
Yeah, and this shows that I just did looked at the cat/etc/os, and this shows Buster 10 version, or 10 Buster version. And let me look at the kernel. The kernel is 5.1.63 -v7 blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Five.
You're running a much newer kernel than I am.
Okay. You're at what? 5 points?
4.19.
Oh, yeah. You probably definitely want to
Well,
me too.
when I tried the newer kernel, it was even slower than it is now. So
Hmm.
I have tried it. I mean, I've tried a little bit of everything, but
Hmm.
short of getting the hammer out and just smashing the crap out of it.
I think that'll make you feel better, but probably won't make the Raspberry Pi work any better.
Can always threaten it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'll just have to run when we get done with me. I'll just have to run up to Walmart and grab a SD card and see if I can.
Walmart is a good place to buy SD cards.
No, but it's the closest place. And it's
Oh, okay.
and
What kind do they have there?
SanDisk. They've got some generics. I'll probably buy a SanDisk.
Yeah.
SanDisk.
Yeah, if you're getting a 16, I wouldn't expect you to pay more than $5 for it, right?
Yeah, I think they're about 10 there, but
Okay. On the other hand, as a trade-off with the gas to go to Micro Center.
that's pretty much what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And it's 7:00. I don't think I would get to. Let's see what they cost. Micro SD card. Let's see what Walmart says they've got. Oh wow, I could get 128 gig for $12. That's pretty good.
Oh yeah, I mean the Micro Center come on SD chips are just, you know, if money's a concern, no place else you want to buy.
I know.
They it's like the 19 cent a pound bananas at the grocery store, you know. I don't know if they still have 19 cent, but no, it's
Well,
hard to beat Micro Center.
They've got a 2-pack of generic ONN, which is a Walmart brand. 2-pack 32 gig 2-pack for $8. That's probably the way to go.
Yeah, that's reasonable, because the Raspberry Pi isn't going to see beyond 32 anyway.
And well, I'm pretty sure I had a 64 in one of them, but the PNY, they've got a PNY there, just one single one for $8. So that's not possible either.
Yeah. Again, you're getting down to the point where the cost of gas to drive there is probably significant relative to the cost of the chip.
Well, the good news is Walmart is 3 minutes away from the house. So
okay. Yeah, I've got one about 3 minutes from my house too.
So
down the whole, we can coast there, but we can't coast back up the hill. So, so
there is no way they're selling. That's got to be from a, because that would be the way to buy. Oh yeah, that wasn't right. $33. That makes more sense. There was a 128 gig listed for $8, and I'm like, nope, there's no way, because I
don't think so.
Because I'm going to go buy that for $8.
I'm ready to call it a day.
Yeah,
I think we're about done for the night.
Yeah. I will let everybody know how my adventure with Raspberry Pi goes.
Okay. Well, you take care. Everybody keep safe.
Okay.
And hopefully we will be able to do in person next week, but I'll have to let Jim know.
Okay.
All right.
See you
Take
later.
care. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye. Bye all.